Existence Brewing.
Okay, Cosmic Kiddos, it's time for another Existence Brewing download.
I wanted to mention something real fast about saunas, and we had talked a little bit about meditation, and I had mentioned that I actually do meditation while I'm in the sauna, and I just find it a place to kind of have a very controlled environment where it's just like you're going out to the sauna and utilizing that relaxation space for just kind of like allowing your mind to unwind and do some of these wellness things. One of the things that I ran across was in this article, I believe it was an article by the New York Times talking about this uptick in saunas and how all of a sudden there's this kind of like real explosion in people interested in saunas and kind of
sauna boom.
It's a sauna boom. Exactly. And there was this kind of thought in my mind too, is it's like, why is this all of a sudden becoming a thing? And there's this kind of resurgence in saunas. And when I first say to you the words public bathhouse, well, what comes to mind?
Spirited Away, Japan, and the movie Spirited Away. I can tell by the look that you're not familiar with Studio Ghibli's
No,
work.
I have seen Spirited Away. I have seen Spirited Away.
Oh, okay, good. I'm so happy. I thought we had a disconnect there for a second. I'm sorry. It's such an amazing movie. One of my best memories of being with Maddie is centered around that movie because we stayed in this amazing hotel and we were so tired and got in there and she found it and we laid there and ate pizza and just watched that. And we'd both, of course, seen it a million times, but it was great. So that's what I think of. I conjure Spirited Away and essentially just Japan and Japanese culture in general.
Okay, well, that's probably different than what I thought you were going to say. So that's why I had that kind of quizzical look. Well, public bathhouse, when you think of, maybe Roman bathhouse.
There's some other stuff going on in there besides
you
just never, bathing.
Yeah, you just kind of like not really a real desirable place to be. And
that I can see that.
And one of the things that was kind of brought into this conversation was there is this kind of need in our society, and they talk a lot about how, like, post-pandemic, there has been this uptick in personal wellness and people wanting to get back into health and well-being. And before running water was a thing, people were utilizing these bathhouses as a way to clean themselves. And so
in Europe, house after all.
Yeah, European countries, they would have public saunas and there was this way for people to commune and to, utilize this as a necessity to clean themselves. And essentially the reason they suggest as to why saunas have become such a popular thing all of a sudden is that this digital world that we live in now has really kind of gotten us to start looking back at kind of more of an analog world, a world where things are much more simple and more rooted in nature. Kind of like what we've talked about before with this practice of grounding, where it kind of gets you back into this very primitive sense of heat and what it does to your body and kind of just this connection back into a primal state. So yeah, saunas in many cases have been revealed as kind of a returning back to this primal need that we have for warmth. And
that's very cool.
Yeah, I thought it was a very interesting.
I'll share a vision, I guess, and not in the precognitive sense necessarily, but I guess my mind functions similarly to a lot of psychics and seers and soothsayers and people like that who have talked to me about their craft before or their gift and saying that, it comes like a Viewmaster kind of, if you know what that is, the slides or just little short reels. The spirit world just conveys with pictures. It's not, remember Kenny Kingsley, I think was his name, the 90s psychic hotline thing, you could call one of those. I mean, he was all about clair audio, and that is a different kind of connection you're supposed to be able to make with the spirit world where voices can literally be heard. You detect words that are given from the other side. So it's not that there isn't an audible component to the phenomenon, but most of the psychics I've ever gone to or talked to about their gift or their supposed gift, that's what they say. They say it's these pictures. And so this, I guess, is kind of the same thing. But as you're talking about the sauna being this, return. It's almost nostalgic, but that's kind of like the beginning, because then it's like you said, it's a serious effort to backtrack to a simpler day. And what we're doing is we're such linear creatures because, again, we have that timer ticking all the time. I've been born and now I'm going to die, and we don't know when. So it's hard for us to see things or think of things in a way that's eternal, even though we absolutely are. And all the energy that comprises us and everything around us is too. And we've talked about this on former podcasts about AI and about how technology in general, now that we've reached AI in particular, could be what walks us back to the answer that we've been looking for. And so as much as we like to, some of us, especially on the spiritual side, we shun it or we eschew it and say it's bad. It's, like I said, I'm trying to give it its just dues because I think technology walks us back around to the answers that we already know. It could be responsible for that. But the picture I see is an Ouroboros. And if you know what an Ouroboros is it's an ancient symbol for eternity. It's for things that are just constant. And it's the serpent eating its tail. And I have an Ouroboros necklace, and there's a ring that I'd love to have that's an Ouroboros, has little ruby eyes on a snake. And so it's always a serpent, a snake, or a dragon that's got its tail in its mouth. But what comes to me is that's what it reminds me of, is just we're on that part of the cycle. We're on that piece of the tail where we're coming back around again. But the important part is that the dragon's head, or the snake's head, the serpent's head, not choke on its tail. And that's the mishap that can happen when we come around to this point, to this stage where the tail is entering the serpent's mouth. It's pivotal for all of the forces that are at work to make sure that the serpent doesn't choke on its tail. And that is what could happen if we don't use technology appropriately. Because remember, we're the only ones using technology. I mean, yes, you could probably point to limited examples where chimpanzees in some experiment or bears in a laboratory in Russia somewhere are pushing a key to get a cookie or tell the zookeeper how they're feeling that way. But generally speaking, human beings, we're the only ones using manufacturing technology. And so it's solely up to us how that is applied and for the intent that it's used for. And I know we go back to that, but that's big in Jack's world. It's one of those big pillars. Your intent means everything because it's the literal disposition of the energy that you set out to use. Doesn't matter if it comes to fruition or not, but if my intent is to do good with technology, good will happen. Even if not via the technology itself, good will still come from this because it was a good progressive intent. If it's not so good, if it's regressive, you know the outcome.
We hope this download brewed up something for your existence. To find more, and for full episodes of Existence Brewing, check out the podcasts at existencebrewing.com or wherever you find your favorite podcasts online.
Existence Brewing.